Everywhere I looked, I found intel agencies. You look at Jeremy Farrar, he's head of something called Wellcome Trust over in England. Well, it's Burroughs Wellcome. It's a big pharmaceutical company. The family left a big trust. They fund a lot of grants. It's a private organization. The head of it is a former head of the MI5. Everywhere you look, there are these people in and out of the spook community. They're all spies. We started looking at the scientists, and we find out many of them work for the government. They don't release this, but we found out in our investigation, Peter Daszak and Ralph Barrick both were informants for the intelligence agency. They get paid to do this, and they were both commissioned to give their opinion on where they think the virus came from. Well, these two guys were the long-standing collaborators with Dr. Shi in Wuhan. They had worked on the gain-of-function experiments that may have led to COVID, and we're asking them their opinion. So once again, it's the conspiracy. No one had to tell them to lie. No one had to tell them to cover up. They covered up to cover their own ass, basically. They were involved with this research. If the research led to the pandemic, they share responsibility. So what is their conclusion going to be? Came from nature. You know, goes back to that whole spring of 2020, there's a letter to Lancet. And this is where you really see the culpability of these people. Ralph Barrick and Peter Daszak organized the letter. And the letter's to say, these people are nuts. They're conspiracy theorists who say it came from a lab. But in the email exchanges back and forth, we have Ralph Barrick, the coronavirus scientist from UNC, who's been working with them in Wuhan. We have him saying, hey, or Peter Daszak says to him, Ralph, maybe you shouldn't put your name on here. We really need the appearance of independence with this letter. But that is the circle of government scientists, you know, that are basically hired by the government that are giving us back information, but they have a conflict of interest. We also have other scientists, the ones who wrote the proximal origins article that Fauci commissioned and edited. At least one of them got a $9 million grant. We have him on the phone saying, oh my goodness, it looks like it was genetically engineered. It looks like we've got a virus that could have come from a lab. And 3 days later, he's working on a paper to say definitively it couldn't have come from the lab. And a month or two later, he gets a $9 million grant.